gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors, episode 305. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Hello, Saturn. We have housekeeping.
Housekeeping?
And it is that guy is here. Well, he's almost always here when we record. And apparently I was going to make it a song, too.
I heard that.
Guy is here.
Was that to the tune of Guys and Dolls?
He's going to be on his segment after the show. So please stay tuned after the ending theme. For him, he's very aggressive about DuckTales.
You have to be very patient with Justin. This is the first podcast he's ever done.
I've never done this before.
He's just warming up to it.
My week. Did we talk about this? Iwata Asks came out.
I believe you had mentioned that you had gotten it, but I don't remember us saying any more than that.
I've been reading bits of that, and it's very heartwarming, and a little boring, but heartwarming and sweet, and it's probably too much information, but it resides in my bathroom.
That's where books go.
It's cut up into these little 1 or 2 page snippets,
right?
And it just works very well for that kind of business.
Yeah. Also, growing up, I had lived in a house with many people. I had 2 siblings, and frequently one or more of their friends was living with us. So there was constantly 6, 7, 8, 9 people in the house at all times. And so I really enjoyed reading from a very young age, and that was where I would read. I would go to the bathroom to read because that's where peace and quiet was, and that's where the best lighting was. And
I didn't have that many people in my house, and I still went to the bathroom to read.
It's just a nice place. It's so quiet and peaceful in there.
Also, the only room in the house you can see a non-backlit Game Boy Advance.
This is true. That's a good point.
So there you go. I also picked up Lego Star Wars, the complete series, which I had been eyeballing for a while because in my head I feel like I like the Lego games.
Yeah.
And then I play one, and I'm like, oh, it's the exact same as every other Lego game. And I get bored because when Lego Star Wars came out, it was a certified big deal.
Yeah.
Like people lost their minds over it. It was a very big deal when it came out.
Right.
And so of course now they've got literally Lego games for everything that ever comes out.
I feel like the jumping of the shark for the Lego games was when they released Lego Batman. I feel like that was
really because it's
not Lego. Sorry, I was literally reading it on the screen. Lego Rock Band is what I meant to say. I feel like Lego Rock Band was as dumb as they could get in Lego games, and no more. No, I was trying to find out how old Lego Star Wars is, and it is 16 years old now.
It's certainly not one of the first Lego games, but it's one. It seems like I believe it was one of the earlier Lego games in this Lego game. Licensed game.
I think it was the first. I think it was the first in that style.
One?
Yeah, if I remember right. Yeah.
I felt like there was something before it, but I'm. It's been a long time. I'm old. So I picked it up on sale. It was $5, and I'd been playing it, and you know what? It's just a darn fun game. It's it's a good time, and I realized what it is because I'll get this wild hair, and I'll be like, I'm gonna go download the new Lego Star Wars or the new whatever Lego game because I like Lego games, and then I go, but do I? Or are they all the same?
Yeah,
and I can just play whichever one and get the same experience.
Yeah, the only...
and then I'll go download one that I own, like Lego Indiana Jones or something, and I'll play it, and I'll be like, nah, boring, and I'll quit. And then 2 months later, I'll be like, I should download one of the Lego games. And finally, I shelled out the money for Lego Star Wars, and it's good. It's a good time. I've been having fun with it. My daughter's been playing it. Nice. Somehow, she cannot navigate 3D spaces whatsoever.
That's okay. I can't either. In real life or in games.
Thankfully, the game has adaptive difficulty because she just cannot just walk straight off of every ledge.
In fairness... the few Lego games I've tried, I've tried Lego Batman, I've tried Lego Marvel Superheroes. I think that's the only ones I've tried. I can never tell where the fuck I'm going in those games. I am constantly lost, and I don't know why.
And thankfully, she can still play the game just totally fine because it doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's like, that's fine. Just murder yourself repeatedly. We would also enter rooms and she'd go, okay, Dad, you go take care of the bad guys and set the controller down. And I'd be like, why did you want to play this with me again?
So she could roam around and do Yoda things.
So you could offset more chores onto me. But that's really it. I also again played a couple of other Lego games because I was like, do I like these? And didn't click. I think I played Lego Batman and Lego Indiana Jones.
Nice.
And was like, meh.
It is definitely formulaic.
I guess it's the subject matter that sells me on it. And when it's Star Wars, I get all the in jokes, and I'm like, oh, I'm enjoying this now. So yeah.
I finally finished Yakuza 5.
How many hours was it?
I want to say it ended up being about 130.
Oh,
and that was at 53% completion.
Man, how heartbreaking was it to see that completion percentage?
It hurt a little. It hurt.
Like 53 is awfully low for you.
Yeah. Well, that's about average of what I've been getting on the Yakuza games so far. Is a little over 50 in each of them. But some of the, especially the side stories in Yakuza 5, are quite time consuming. It's still good. I still enjoyed it. I am used to the story in Yakuza games really going off the rails at the end. This one went off the rails in a very different way. It felt like the different acts, because the game is split into 4 different acts where you play as 4 different characters, technically 5 characters. And they all seem to have their own quasi-independent stories, and then the finale tries to put them all together and make them all coherent.
But in the dumbest, most ridiculous way?
Well, it feels like whoever wrote the finale had not read any of the other stories until they were supposed to write it. Like, it was at the last...
That Yakuza magic.
Yeah, they were like, oh shit, I'm supposed to put all these things together? Fuck, all right.
I didn't read that script. That's fine. It's due in an hour. Oh, shit.
Right. It's like, well, maybe this character used to date this character? I don't know. And it got a little weird. It wasn't bad, but the very ending, like the last fight, was I think it was supposed to be like a surprise out of left field fight, like, oh, you didn't expect this character, but instead it was a shit, who is that character again? I don't remember you. And even after they described themselves, like, who, I have to look you up on a wiki now, don't I? And then after that fight was the just the dumbest final scene in the series so far. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but it's just so dumb. But fortunately, after that, they decided to go back in time with Yakuza 0. So I feel like there was a reason for that. Like they realized they were kind of stretching at the end there, and maybe they should do a prequel now.
Yeah.
But I did start Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil Village. Capcom is very insistent.
Resident Evil 8-lidge.
Yeah. You know, with the 7, they still put the Roman numeral on the spine of the box, even though they hit it, ingeniously in the letters VIL. They still put the Roman numeral there. They still acknowledge this is the 7th game. In this one, they hid the Roman numeral 8 very ingeniously in the letters VIL, the same that they did in the last game. It's not new or original. They just did the exact same thing. But now they're pretending like the number isn't there.
That it's not a number.
Yeah, it's just a new original product.
I on the one hand, sometimes it does feel dumb to be like, Mega Man 14. Like, I get that it feels kind of silly to just keep on adding the numbers, but at the same time, when you have that many of them, we kind of need the easy nomenclature.
Yeah, it does help.
Please.
Yeah.
I don't want a Rambo type situation. You got First Blood and then Rambo First Blood, and then I don't know.
Right. But no, so far, and I'm not super far into it, it feels very Resident Evil 4.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like they finished Resident Evil 7 and they were like, oh, that was a really smart move for us to kind of take the concept of Resident Evil 1 and put it in first person. What if we did the same thing to Resident Evil 4? And then they did that.
And then here you are.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe it'll change as I get further in, but so far it feels very, very Resident Evil 4, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is a departure from Resident Evil 7. Either way, I still have the exact same complaints with it that I had with RE7, which is that it'll try to do some kind of a surprise or something will jump out at me, but because it's first person, I'm aimed the wrong direction and I didn't see any of what was supposed to just surprise me.
Right, you have less situational awareness.
Yeah, I'm just staring at a wall and I heard a noise and I'm like, oh, did a thing happen? And I turn around and it's over now. And I'm like,
really,
well, what changed?
It sounds like more the problem is they're designing it with a third-person perspective in mind, because theoretically, if you're designing with a first-person perspective in mind, you wouldn't have that happen. You would trigger events such that you would see them if you're supposed to see them.
Well, that's the problem. All of the first-person events that they do have, which are a lot, both in Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8, because you only see the character's hands, they all revolve around his hands. It's always somebody stabbing him in the hand, or somebody biting off his finger, or somebody chopping off his hand, or somebody chopping off both of his hands. And that just keeps happening in both Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8. So they had to introduce in Resident Evil 7 the magical Bactine that he pours on his hands and makes his hands regrow.
It sounds like, and it never even occurred to me, but it sounds like they're really focusing in on the hands for no reason.
Well, that's the part of Ethan that you can see, so therefore...
Right, but I feel like if you're in a situation where it's like, oh, you're getting murderlated, so let's chop something off, couldn't they zoom out to a third person for a second, let you view the scene? And lots of games do that. They'll jump out to third person for something and come back.
Well, apparently they're very against showing his face. Because even in the character model viewer, it just has like a shadowy area for his face.
To pretend it's you.
It's so dumb. I hate that.
I can't.
But yeah, what gets me is
it implies that I wouldn't want to pretend to be an interesting character, which is offensive to me.
What gets me is it's always his hands. They constantly are doing stuff to his hands and his wrists and his arms and shit like that. But even if it's first person, I literally see in first person in real life, I can look down and see 80% of my body right now.
Right.
We could do any of that. Just make him look fucking down. But no, that's
oh boy.
That's my first person Resident Evil rant.
You think they're going to add a DLC character where one of his hands puts on a sock and talks to you? Like a little friend.
It's the Mr. Garrison mod.
Hey, Ethan, it's me, Socko. Let's go kill some zombies.
I'm sorry. There's not zombies now. Now it's werewolves and vampires.
It sounds so worse. It sounds so much. I already wasn't going to play it, but the more I hear, the more I'm just like, no.
The worst part is as much as I am ragging on it, I'm actually enjoying it quite a bit. I'm enjoying it more than I expected.
Reviewing well. People seem to be liking it a lot.
I went into it thinking, just more first person Resident Evil. But the more of it I play, the more I'm like, this is actually pretty good. I'm enjoying this. Aside from the hand shit.
Let's jump into some news. First up, PlayStation Official Magazine UK has been canceled and will be replaced with an unofficial PlayStation magazine named Play.
Yes.
Per Frank Cifaldi, quote, "This was the last officially licensed console magazine available, ending a 32-year period of official game mags that started with Nintendo Power issue number 1. So it's a weird cancellation in the first place because they're canceling a magazine about PlayStation to replace it with a magazine about PlayStation.
Yeah, well, they're canceling an officially licensed magazine to make a totally unauthorized magazine.
Right, but it's still the same.
Really, what probably happened was Sony pulled out and said you can't use that name anymore. That's probably what happened.
Right. So, because everyone keeps saying it's canceled, and then here's the new one. It just sounds more like a rebrand to me. Like, I understand, like Frank Cifaldi's point, which is that this was an officially licensed magazine. Right. Now it is not. That is the end of an era for sure.
Right.
But it doesn't sound like it's canceled. It sounds like they just renamed it.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a relaunch.
Yeah, I mean, unless they fired all the staff and then hired a new staff to literally start a new magazine, then it's just Limited Run Games has received a license to publish games on Xbox, which is something that I've been waiting for a while. I can't remember what the details were, but wasn't it that Microsoft was making that particular juncture difficult for smaller the publishers? Or?
I don't know if it was just a rumor or if somebody confirmed it, but the reasoning that had been floating around for a while was that Microsoft was requiring larger minimum purchases than the other console platform holders were for physical copies.
Okay. Either way, exciting. Very exciting to see.
Now, one thing I'm concerned about is the team at Limited Run did say Xbox has a different audience than the other platforms, so we will be approaching it in a different way. And what worries me is that means that when games are multi-platform on all three, they still won't release an Xbox version and will instead just release digital versions of Bethesda games or something.
You know what frustrates me about statements like that is instead of just saying, hey, we don't think we're going to sell as many Xbox copies of things, so we're going to be kind of limited with it, because it's in our name, until we see that there's an audience there. Why not just say that?
Yeah.
Why, instead of being like, well, we're going to treat it in this weird, esoteric, special way that we won't reveal to you because we're mysterious. Like, what?
Maybe part of their contract with Microsoft says that they can't say, oh, we won't release as many as we will. Yeah, so
I don't know.
So who knows? I'm sure that whatever statement they made was carefully examined by their legal team.
Yeah. Stadia product head John Justice has left Google.
Oh no!
So
no, not Stadia.
I can't believe it's still going. Honestly, right. I'm kind of shocked that they haven't just. I mean, really, they've all but killed it.
Yeah,
basically.
Well, it's weird because they keep making all of these moves that are making it look like they're trying to withdraw from the space. While simultaneously, they just had a huge launch for Resident Evil 8 on Stadia. They were giving away the hardware with it. Capcom was heavily promoting it. So
I suspect those deals were probably put in place a year or two ago.
But if those deals are successful, then it makes it feel like the platform could be on a rebound or something. It's just a very...
Honestly, it feels like Google has already walked away, but they're looking back over their shoulder in case it resuscitates itself miraculously, and then they're going to come running back going, oh yeah, Stadia, yeah, it was a bumpy road, but we were here the whole time.
It feels like whatever staff are still left on the project are very dedicated to it, but they have lost all support from their higher-ups.
Yeah. PlayStation head Jim Ryan announces a partnership with Discord. Details to follow. We don't really know what that means at all.
Yeah. I'm guessing it'll be similar to the Xbox integration. That's my theory.
Yeah. I'm hoping. That'd be nice.
Right?
Microids has announced a sequel to a 16-bit cinematic platformer, not a 16-bit cinematic, the 16-bit cinematic platformer, Flashbacks.
Yes.
It's going to be called Flashback 2 because they're going to ignore that there already was the second game.
Right.
And then they're just going to make the second game.
Well, hopefully they also ignore the reboot because that was really bad.
Yeah. I've never played Flashback. I'd never even heard of Flashback until this news came up and I read about it. It looks cool. Yeah. I don't usually go in for cinematic platformers, but it's on my radar. Also, Microids sounds like a bad 80s cartoon that ran for one season and then got canceled.
Or like a digital version of some sort of flare-up. Yeah.
My computer's got the Microids. I had to get a cream. A game called Animal Crossing New Horizons has been available in the Windows 10 store for several weeks. It has nothing to do with the Nintendo Switch game of the same name.
Yeah.
Thanks, Microsoft.
Good job. I actually
for locking down Xbox so tight and then not giving a shit about the Windows 10 store.
Yeah, I looked it up and it is still there. I reported it. Nothing will happen.
No,
I'm just shocked that it's still there.
Several founding members have left Giant Bomb. I don't remember who all it was.
It was several,
because I don't follow Giant Bomb. But if you're a Giant Bomb follower, then I'm sorry, that sucks.
Oh, you know what? I am corrected. I just looked it up now, and it has finally been removed from the Windows Store.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. It's because you reported it.
It must be because I reported it. I was the one.
Humble Bundle reverses their previous decision regarding capping charity donations and removing donation sliders. So they've brought back the feature, and now are only lacking the trust of the entire consumer base.
Yeah.
So good for them.
Yeah, I am getting real tired of these companies making very anti-consumer moves and then rolling it back a couple weeks later, being like,
wanting us to praise them.
We didn't know how passionate our fan base were.
We didn't know you cared about not fucking over charities real hard, even though we're basically founded on the premise of donating to charities.
Right.
Why? We didn't think you cared about that. That'd be like if tomorrow Kroger was like, we don't sell groceries anymore. And then a week later, they're like, we didn't know you guys liked groceries so much. We're bringing them back. Like,
we thought you just wanted used shoes.
Nintendo announces Game Builder Garage and a game-making title to release in June. So that's exciting.
Yes.
I don't think we know much about it at this point.
There was a little trailer, but that's about it so far.
The best news of the week, the arcade version of Astyanax has released on Arcade Archives. You can get Bad Dudes on Arcade Archives. You can get Astyanax on Arcade Archives.
Have you played the arcade version?
No, is it bad?
It has nothing to do with the NES version.
Oh, I'm depressed now. You've ruined my day and my week. Oh, I'm upset. Oh,
I thought you already knew that. That's why.
No,
that's why I specified it was the arcade version.
It's a really good NES game.
Yeah, the NES version.
No one else agrees with me.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, everyone thinks it's fine. I think it's really good. Resident Evil 8 producer says the game was balanced due to feedback that RE7 was too scary, and that he doesn't want people to be in constant fear when playing his horror games. I don't even know how to parse that.
I gotta say, I see the output of that decision in Resident Evil 8 because it definitely feels less tense than Resident Evil 7 did.
I feel like that'd be like if Nintendo was like, we found out that people have fun playing our games, so we toned down the fun because we don't want you to have constant fun while you're playing our games. Like,
well, it is.
That's why people are here. They're here for the horror.
It is a little different with horror. You do have to have a tension and release cycle whenever you are making horror, because if people are too tense the entire time, they stop having fun because it's
exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's anxiety inducing.
Right. No, I get that because all horror is that level of tenseness for me from end to end.
Right.
So yeah, it's,
So there is a cycle you have to find. But the way he phrased it did sound like he was saying, "Oh, I don't want this to be horror, just like I
didn't want anyone to be scared."
Yeah.
Rumors point to potential PS5 redesign entering production in 2022, likely to only be minor internal components. We see this all the time with console launches.
Yeah,
people are like, oh, next year, new SKU. And it's like, well, they just changed some components due to supply line constraints.
Right. Exactly.
Nintendo Switch has nearly sold 85 million, according to Nintendo annual financial report. Also reported that Super Mario 3D All-Stars unfortunately sold over 9 million copies.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how many more it would sell if it was still available?
Can you imagine how fucking pissed their shareholders were when they were like, hey, that game we won't let anyone buy anymore? One of our best sellers. And then they all went, well, can we keep selling it? And then Nintendo went, no. No, we're protecting our brand.
No, that was last year's IP. This year, not that.
Yeah, something else now.
Yeah.
It's different now.
Right.
During testimony for the Epic v. Apple case, Microsoft revealed that they don't make money on Xbox consoles. And then they later clarified to state that the Xbox division as a whole is quite profitable. I feel like this is information we already knew.
Yeah.
Console manufacturers, almost as a habit, tend to lose money or not make much money or just break even on hardware sales because they're selling you the ecosystem, not just the thing.
Yeah, and that's been the case at least since the PS1 era. I remember hearing stories of Sony not making a profit on PS1 consoles after their first price drop, of PS2s and Xboxes not being profitable for many years. So it's not new or news, but for some reason everybody was running with it.
Yeah, I guess some people are still shocked to learn that a company will sell you something that you have to keep spending money on at a loss. Shocked, I say.
Right.
Sony reportedly no longer allowing new titles to be published on the PlayStation Vita marketplace, thus further fucking the Vita from beyond the grave. It's been dead for years, and they killed it, the bastards, and now they've shown back up to dig the corpse up, shit on it, and back over it with a tractor. Thank you, Sony.
Yeah.
We get it. You fucking hate the Vita, you assholes. Why did you kill it?
I love there's that meme on any Vita-based forum or subreddit or anything out there. Anytime any bad news about the Vita comes out, someone will immediately reply with, Vita means life.
Let's get into the topic at hand this week. We're talking DuckTales.
Woo!
Which is that game about what if a cartoon duck went to the moon to save his nephews, but really he just wanted to continue amassing more wealth than he could ever reasonably spend.
You know, saving his
lifetimes.
nephews is not even part of the plot of the game.
I know. Wait, I mean, he does. He saves some. He saves Webby.
Well, he finds them frequently. But that's not why he went out.
He saves one of them.
Webby is not one of his nephews.
Well, whatever. His niece.
Webby is his maid's niece.
Well, I don't know the whole duck hierarchy here, okay? He saves some ducks, okay? It's a duck and there's other ducks. They do duck stuff. Yeah. Well, actually, they do the opposite of duck stuff.
They do nothing
that is
like duck stuff.
DuckTales released on the Nintendo Entertainment System in North America on September 14th of 89 and Japan on January 26th of 1990 under the name Wanpaku Duck Yume Buken, or Naughty Duck Dream Adventure. And released in European territories on December 14th of 1990. There was a Game Boy port.
There's a Game Boy game.
There's a Game Boy game. It hit North America in November 1990, Japan on my birthday, September 21st in 1990, when I turned 2 that day. And Europe in 1991, just sometime in that calendar year. We don't know when.
I love the name Naughty Duck Dream Adventure.
I see why they didn't go with that.
Do you?
But I like it as well.
And apparently that's the name of the cartoon in Japan too.
Oh, well, I just assumed that they didn't have the cartoons. They gave it some goofy name.
No, that was the official Disney name.
And that's just what... Oh, you naughty duck, Scrooge. What is the dream adventure? Is it implying that he's dreaming everything?
I don't know. I do not know.
I mean, I get naughty duck because...
It's Scrooge.
Ducks aren't supposed to do those things.
Yeah. Really, Donald is more naughty than any of the ducks in DuckTales.
I don't know.
His nephews.
Feel like the bad guy duck in DuckTales is pretty. He does some pretty naughty stuff.
That's true. Glumgold or whatever.
I just feel like we don't in the English-speaking world use the term naughty to mean what it actually means, which is things you're not supposed to do.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. Not these days. Usually it means the sex.
Yeah.
It's a sex thing.
At least since the 90s, it has generally meant sexy times.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Sexy Duck Dream Adventure just doesn't have the same ring to it, so...
I'd play that game, too.
Adventure. Now I'm just imagining a Fritz the Cat style reimagining of DuckTales, and it's horrifying. Well, great.
Oh God, what would Mrs. Beasley be wearing?
She could keep wearing the same outfit.
Okay, good.
First encounters. My brother and I were big DuckTales fans as kids, and we played a ton of the NES game. I do remember it being in our regular rotation, but my brother always enjoyed it more than I did. I wasn't a fan of the invisible walls thing, or the pogo cane in particular was a little too advanced for me. I was like 3 to 6, so the whole like having to hold a direction down for so long,
hold a button.
Like do what?
You just have to hold B. Once you've started it, you can just hold B.
I have to hold a button, and it hurts my thumb to hold it, and then I don't know. I remember like I couldn't reliably use the pogo cane.
Well, I think we've learned
as a kid.
I think we've learned over the years that you Hulk smash all of your inputs into the controller.
I can't imagine as a 3-year-old I was like destroying controllers.
Probably.
But I do remember playing it, and I remember I would get frustrated in any segments that you had to pogo across something.
Right.
Because I would always drop it in the middle of it. For what I couldn't hold the button. I don't know. Controller's too big in my little baby hands. I have no idea. Yeah. And so I played it a bunch, but I never really gathered too much nostalgia for it. Like we always liked, even more than the show, we liked the movie. I remember we had the DuckTales movie. We'd watch it over and over and over again. The show we liked and we'd watch, and we liked the game, and we had the sequel, DuckTales 2. And for some reason, we almost never played that one. And I don't rightly know why, because it really is kind of just more of the same.
It's more of the same.
But yeah, it was definitely in our rotation, but it was never. I'll say that as an adult, it has always been a little odd to me how beloved this game has become. Because it was right there on the shelf next to like Mylon's Secret Castle for us, which isn't to say it's bad like that game is, because that game is bad. But yeah, it existed in our home. We had it.
And see, I was a big fan of the cartoon. Everyone I knew was a big fan of the cartoon at the time. Even like my older siblings who were really too old for DuckTales were also big fans of it. And so I was pretty stoked when it was announced and they were showing previews of it in magazines. And then other people either got copies or rented it and they were telling me it was good. So I was pretty excited to see if it was available at the rental store. And when we did rent it, I finished it that first time and was a little sad by how short it was. But then I would still re-rent it every now and then just to play it again because I enjoyed it that much. I never played the sequel until Nesticle came around. Like I don't even remember seeing it on shelves because the rental stores near me phased out NES by the time it came out. And I didn't end up buying a copy until sometime after the N64 was already out. I found a cheap copy of DuckTales for like $5 somewhere. But it's still one that I enjoy, and it is definitely one of the best licensed games on the system. And I
now, granted, it doesn't have wonderful competition in that particular arena.
Fair,
but yeah, I think a lot of it was just it was a good licensed game on the NES, which was a rarity,
right?
You know, I mean, we all played Widget the World Watcher.
No,
what a shit show that was. Did not. Come on.
But you know, compared to stuff like Dick Tracy.
Right. Oh my God. I played so much Dick Tracy. What a shitty game.
Seriously. So yeah, it was pretty exciting. And speaking of the movie, I saw the movie in the theater and have not seen it since then. I remember being so excited to see it in the theater and then never saw it again after that. I enjoyed it, but I never watched it again.
I remember the movie like blowing our minds. Like, I remember watching it and being like, this is important. This means something.
Right.
This is a big deal. And then I watched it again a few years ago, and I was like, I don't know what I saw, but maybe there was a different movie or something.
Yeah, I remember bringing family members, like extended family, to the theater to watch it with us, and no one else was as excited as I was.
Right.
But I was stoked.
Tell me about the development of DuckTales.
So it was at some point in 88 when Disney and Capcom signed their exclusive contract for Capcom to publish games based on Disney's properties on Nintendo consoles outside of Japan. Man, that is the most clarifying statements that I could have put in that sentence. And they were working to develop original games, DuckTales being the first. But they wanted something to release since they had this contract, so they licensed Hudson's game Mickey Mouse Fushigi no Kuni no Daiboken, which they released as Mickey Mousecapade.
I played so much Mickey Mousecapade.
Me too, and it is not a good game at all.
No, it's not as bad. It's very bad game. Speaking
of good games versus bad games, so DuckTales is designed by a lot of the same team that made Mega Man, whereas Mickey Mousecapade is designed by a lot of the same team that made Mylon's Secret Castle.
What? No way!
Yeah.
No wonder I played so much of both of those bad games.
But yeah, it was a lot of the dev team from Mega Man came on board, including producer Tokuro Fujiwara, sound designer Yoshihiro Sakaguchi, and character designer Kaiji Inafune, who we all know from the masterpiece Mighty No. 9.
Among other things.
No, just that one. But I could not find any interviews with any of them where they said anything at all useful about the development of the game. It was always like, we designed a moon level.
Weren't most of the Disney developed games kept pretty hush-hush?
Yes.
I know a lot of, especially the later ones, like I feel like I remember hearing that Lion King and Aladdin, like we're just now hearing stuff about them.
Well, yeah, those were designed by Virgin, though, and Virgin was always pretty tight-lipped.
Right. But just in general, I feel like Disney licensed games in general, they probably were very much like, hey, don't.
I'm sure they were under strict contracts. I know.
Yeah.
I remember hearing the development of Kingdom Hearts that Nomura had to go back to Disney dozens of times with designs for characters because they would be like, that character can't be holding that. He's not allowed to have anything that could be seen as a weapon.
Yeah.
So they are pretty picky about that.
Yeah, I mean, or at the
less
very least,
so
significantly
during the NES
more,
era, but
yeah, but I mean, it was probably more hush hush than like the development of Low G Man or whatever other NES game was.
Right.
In the context, it was probably pretty
definitely
hush-hush.
less contracts involved in Low G Man.
Let's talk story. In DuckTales, Scrooge McDuck wants to become even richer than he already is. So he seeks out 5 legendary lost treasures in order to become the richest duck in the world. And like usual, his nephews, employees, and others in his care are wrapped up into his scheme. I thought he already was the richest duck in the world, though.
Yeah, but he wants to be even richer.
Okay. He wants that Jeff Bezos level
yes.
of wealth.
Really, DuckTales was just preparing us for the present.
Let's talk graphics and sound.
Yes.
Graphically, it's a very good-looking NES game.
Yeah.
It's very well animated. It looks very nice.
Yeah,
it's very representative of the cartoon characters it's trying to represent.
Right. One of the few things I did see as far as an interview with him is an interview with Kaiji Inafune. And he said that the reason he changed Scrooge's coat from blue to red was because it stood out better from the backgrounds of the NES color palette. And when he was apparently nervous to pitch that to Disney, and they didn't notice.
Of all the things that this person can't hold that, but you change a duck's coat color, and they're like, we didn't even.
Yeah.
We had no idea.
Yeah.
And then the music in the game is very celebrated.
Yes. That's 'cause it's excellent
and it
music.
has a fantastic score.
Yeah.
But obviously the most celebrated piece of music is the Moon theme.
Yes.
Which I feel that anyone with any love for anything DuckTales or NES is aware of the DuckTales NES Moon theme.
And if not, you should go listen to it because it is phenomenal chiptune music. And there's also a Brental Floss cover that's very good.
It's funny. Every game, because for people that don't know, the Brental Floss was a internet music. Well, he's a real life musician, but he was on the internet in like I guess the 2010s would have been the peak Brental Floss era,
right?
And he added lyrics to songs from retro video games mostly.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of spoiled me on some of my favorite NES games because I can't not sing his cover of it.
Yeah.
Even when I don't love his cover of it, I still have to sing it while I'm playing.
Yoshi's Island, I also have to sing his cover of it while I'm playing.
Yes.
Also, what's his name? Smooth McGroove, the guy that does the acapella ones.
Yeah.
He also did an excellent version of the Moon theme. So,
I mean, if you just go on YouTube and you search DuckTales Moon theme, there's 1,000 million billion different renditions of the Moon theme. It's
absolutely
very celebrated, and rightly so. It's a very catchy piece of music.
Yes.
But onto the gameplay.
Duck.
You are a duck. This is true. In DuckTales, you can choose any of 5 stages from the beginning, sort of Mega Man style.
Right.
You've got the Amazon, Transylvania, the African mines, the Himalayas, or the moon.
And I did find some sources that claimed that the game was built on Mega Man's engine or Mega Man's source code, but I can't find anything that confirms that. So I don't know for sure that's the case, but based on sprite sizes and game physics and stuff like that, it kind of feels like it might be.
Yeah, I mean, with NES games, it's hard to tell.
Right.
because you could basically say that like any other NES game was based on the Mega Man engine, and you'd kind of almost believe it, you know. But yeah, I could see that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do want to come back to some of these levels because I have complaints.
Yes.
But first, let's talk about the pogo cane.
Okay.
Which is the probably the most important portion of the it's what makes DuckTales a game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just a duck jumping on things. And how is that fun? So you know how in the DuckTales cartoon, Scrooge McDuck can jump around on his cane like a pogo stick, right?
Yeah, totally. Like that happens in every episode, right?
Yes. Well, you can do that in the game by holding down while jumping, and he puts his cane beneath him, and he bounces on it like a pogo stick. And as long as you hold the button, you'll keep bouncing over and over and over.
And you'll get slightly more height, too, by doing a pogo jump.
Yes, and you can pogo jump off of other enemies. Anyone that's played Shovel Knight, it'll feel very familiar because Shovel Knight was kind of based on that particular mechanic of it was very much based on DuckTales.
Yes.
And that's also how you eliminate enemies. You cannot jump on them normally, Mario style. Ho-ho, you have to hit them with your pogo cane after jumping in the air, just like in the cartoon. So it's identical to the Disney afternoon cartoon where Scrooge McDuck bounced around like a gummy bear, not the candy, the other cartoon.
Yeah, the cartoon.
And killed people.
Well, also you could hit them with rocks.
The game, yeah, you can, but you have to hit him with your cane.
Yes,
you can't throw a rock.
You have to golf swing it.
Everything's cane based.
Yes,
Scrooge McDuck is too fancy to touch any of these enemies.
Yeah, touching them causes him damage.
Tip of his cane.
Yes,
that's no. Far too fancy for that. So yeah, if you're up against a block that you or really anything, you can swing the cane like a golf club,
right?
And a lot of blocks you fly across the screen when you do it. If you do it against a wall or something, it just kind of rattles.
Yeah,
your Scrooge McDuck.
And it's a great animation, honestly. For NES era, the animation of him slapping his cane into a wall and rattling is fantastic.
Yeah. Now I as I stated before, I always used to have trouble with the pogo cane. Coming back to it as an adult, it's fine. I don't dislike it. I wish there was a little more complexity to the game. There's just not a lot going on. There's really no power-ups of any kind.
It's true.
Except for at some point you can increase your health. There is an invincibility power-up that seems to drop at the least useful moments.
That's true.
I don't think I picked up a single invincibility coin in the game that I was like, oh yes, thank goodness, I need this for this segment.
Well, they're all in predetermined locations too, so they intentionally put them in useless places,
in bad spots. Actually, there was one in the Himalayas that I was like, oh man, that was useful. I got the spider. I do feel like some of the enemies in the game are kind of bullshit. Specifically,
spiders especially.
The spiders are bullshit.
Yes.
They are very bullshit.
Yeah.
And I feel like I had another complaint about some other enemy, but I can't
remember. The flowers are
also
kind of bullshit.
The flowers are the game has a habit of doing this thing where it says, okay, we know you have to pogo cane around, and we know you're going to be pogo caning.
Right.
That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So let's put in hazards that you cannot pogo cane onto. Right. And it's not, you can pogo cane across pits of spikes. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But if you pogo cane into snow, as in the Himalayas level, or you pogo cane onto one of these little evil flowers, they just bite you.
Yes.
And I find it frustrating that those frustrate me. Yeah. And I don't quite know what it is.
Well, the thing that frustrates me the most in the game, and this is from somebody who loves the game, has been playing it for 30 years now, is the hit detection. Because sometimes I think I landed square on an enemy and killed them, and somehow I take damage because I was just a few pixels off from where I should have hit them. And the same thing happens when you're trying to pogo jump off of small platforms to get to like a hidden area or something. And if you're just slightly off of the pogo stick landing on it, Scrooge will just fall flat on it. Like he'll just stop dead in his tracks when you're expecting to do a jump. And that's it's annoying because I'm used to pixel perfect hit detection in Capcom games, and for the most part this game has that too, except for the pogo jump. Occasionally is just a little off for some reason.
Which wouldn't be that frustrating, either your complaint or my complaint, which is except that pogo caning is literally your only ability.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you're doing 90% of the time.
I mean, your only other ability is stand there and get hit by shit, because that's you've got to jump and you got to pogo cane. That's all you do. So it does feel frustrating when that literally singular mechanic doesn't land or work properly. It can be really annoying. That said, most of the time in most of the levels, it works totally fine.
Right. And also works fine if you're not trying to do something advanced or weird or crazy. It generally works fine. It's when you're either stretching yourself and trying to hit that last guy somewhere, or when you're really trying to go for a secret area, is when it seems to act up the most, in my experience anyway.
Now, there are gems and treasures that you can find throughout each of the stages that add to Scrooge McDuck's fortune. You can also increase the amount of health that you have. There's some hidden health items that you can get. There are a few items that you have to find to unlock some of the other stages.
Yes.
Like I believe the African mines are locked until you find the key.
Get the remote control to get into the moon.
Yeah, at the moon level. So it's one of those things where you can't really play the levels in any order like Mega Man style, but you can kind of start looking for the ends of levels in whatever order you want.
Right.
And I do take issue with the Transylvania level, because replaying it,
well, you have to play it 3 times just to finish the game.
You have to play it 3 times. And that's frustrating to me, and I don't love the Transylvania level to begin with. It's this big kind of mazy thing with mirrors and false walls, and it's supposed to be intentionally confusing.
Yes.
It's designed that way.
Right.
There's also moments where, like, the correct mirror you have to go through to get to the end of the level is next to another little teleportation mirror, and the wrong one takes you totally to the wrong place, and you have to basically retraverse the level. Just little bullshitty things like that.
I had Nintendo Power, so
it's always bothered me, the Transylvania level, and you do have to, for some reason, play it 3 times throughout the course of the game.
That's a problem. Well, there are a lot of, like, the hidden walls in Transylvania. There's also a lot of areas where you can go over the wall, like in the Warp Zone in 1-2 of Mario 1. There's a lot of hidden stuff like that just peppered throughout all the levels. But in Transylvania, it's required to find that.
You have to get it.
Yeah.
And so that level in particular it feels like it's kind of worn out its welcome by the end.
That's fair. Yeah.
The rest of the levels, the Amazon level is great. What a fun level. African Mines I like as well. The moon is a lot of fun. I do get annoyed with the little punchy jetpack rocket guys,
those
because
guys
they'll
can
get stuck on platforms and stand there for like a whole minute while you wait for them to move.
Right.
But in general, it's a relatively succinct game. It has an easy mode. I beat the whole thing in like 45 minutes. I beat DuckTales in a mere 45 hours, Saturn.
Just trying to imagine what you could possibly be doing for 45 hours in DuckTales.
I'm
just imagining that one level where I think it's the mines where that one statue tells you have to pay to pass. I'm just imagining you just like pogoing in front of him for 40 hours straight, hoping he'll change his mind.
Yeah, it's a pretty short game. It feels like it kind of has these, like, maybe they planned for it to be a little bigger game. They kind of put in these obstacles, like, hey, you got to have this much money to get through here, or hey, you got to go find this secret key. But
you don't have to have the money. You can skip that.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, you just have to lure an enemy over there, and then pogo jump off of it, and you can grab the rope and go up to the next room.
Oh, I just paid him the money.
Oh, fuck that. Keeping my money.
There are bosses in the game, but honestly, they're relatively... They range between being extremely easy or just kind of forgettable. They're just sort of there. Obviously, it's a game based on a children's cartoon made for children.
Right. I saw one review where they were talking about how incredible the soundtrack is, and they said, and probably the weakest track is the boss music, which is fine because the bosses themselves are weak and forgettable.
Yeah, for the last boss gave me a little bit of trouble. The Dracula duck, I had to fight him a couple times. But a couple of them, like the boss in the African mines is
so
kind of laughably easy. So yeah, they're just sort of there. And like I said, again, it's based on a children's cartoon for children. Although Ninja Gaiden was also made for children, so I don't know. There's no if scale for NES games.
If Ninja Gaiden was made for children, it was made by people who hate children.
You're correct. But yeah, it's hard because there's just not a lot of game here, both in length and in gameplay. Now, what is here is good, and enjoyable, and
charming.
But there's just not it's a 45-minute game. There's literally one gameplay mechanic. I feel like if it were any longer, they would have had to add something else like power-ups or different costumes or something to kind of give it some length.
Now, that said, this is one of the first games that had multiple endings.
Yes.
So if you finish the game with more than $10 million at the end, you get the best ending where Scrooge celebrates how much wealthier he is than everybody else. Mm-hmm. And if you finish the game with less than $10 million, you get the regular ending. And if somehow you manage to end the game with $0, you get a bad ending. And the only way to do that is to use a built-in cheat in the game to buy additional health at the cost of $3 million. So that means you have to go into the last level with a multiple of $3 million in cash on you and buy health just to empty yourself out at 0. And the bad ending is just a newspaper of Scrooge looking sad and saying, oh, well, I guess I'll have to rebuild my wealth now.
I kind of feel like they always sort of planned, and I don't think it's correct, because DuckTales 2 was quite a bit later.
Yeah, it was like 5 years later.
I feel like they always planned on this to be a little bit bigger, more complex of a game, and then for whatever reason, we're just like, let's release it. I mean, what they have, again, was good, but it's just, there's not a ton there. We've probably talked about the game for the amount of time it would take a seasoned player to finish the game, I would imagine.
And also, by the time that they had released the game, the series was almost over. So there was probably some time crunch there, too, when they were developing it. I'm sure Disney told them, hey, the series ends in a year, so you probably want to get something out the door. Yeah. So I can see that being an issue.
Let's talk reception. It was very positively received by critics and fans alike upon release. It sold 1.67 million copies and was Capcom's highest-selling game on the platform.
Yes.
Which there are 6 Mega Man games on that platform.
That is true.
So that's saying something.
Also, Street Fighter 2010.
God damn it. EGM scored the game 8 out of 10, citing excellent game design, but knocking the game for lack of difficulty or complexity.
I can see that.
The game has been listed in multiple greatest games of all time and greatest NES game lists from publications including Nintendo Power, IGN, Official Nintendo Magazine, Games Radar, OneUp.com, et al. There are many.
Yes.
Lots of people that list this as one of the best games, at least on the NES.
Right.
And Saturn, I'm going to have you tell me about the game's legacy, because it might come as a shock. I don't adore DuckTales on NES the way that everyone else does.
How dare you?
I don't hate it. It's fine. It's there. It's fun. It's a fun game. But judging by the game's reception, judging by how angry Guy is that I don't love it, just in general, I've come to realize that people aren't just like, oh yeah, DuckTales on NES was pretty good. They're like, oh no, DuckTales on NES was fucking incredible.
Well, there's some passion behind it.
I don't want to say those people are wrong. I don't think they are wrong, but I don't feel it. I don't feel that fire in me for this game. I was like, that's a fun 45 minutes, and then I'm moving on with my day.
I think part of it was just the time in which it was released too. We were so used to rushed, shitty licensed games, and we were also used to just rushed, shitty games in general. Even some like highly praised, highly memorable games from the era. In retrospect,
there's a kid somewhere that got Little Red Hood on NES for his birthday.
God, I hope not.
You know, that person exists, and they're like, man, I wish I got DuckTales.
Right?
So like the fact that it is a licensed game, and not only is it not the worst shit you've ever played, it's also pretty good.
Yeah.
Like that's massive.
Plus it just
for,
has
for that era.
It has that Capcom charm to it where
it does. It for sure visually and
the music
sound-wise is an extremely charming game.
Absolutely. So, there was that Game Boy game released the following year. It tries to recreate the original game. It has even more issues with hit detection, and the music is bad. It's really like they tried to convert the NES score to the Game Boy, but I think maybe they had never seen a Game Boy before.
That's extra sad because the Game Boy is well celebrated for having a great sound hardware, very capable sound hardware.
Yeah, so long as you don't play DuckTales on it.
Oh, no.
Because some of the music on it is just painful to listen to on the Game Boy port. It's not great. However, it is Capcom's best-selling Game Boy game of all time at 1.43 million copies sold. So, there's that. There was the sequel made in '93 on NES. It was released more than 2.5 years after the cartoon went off the air.
Okay.
It was generally well received, but it was not considered as good as the original, and also it was such a late release on the NES, so it's very hard to find a physical copy. The only reason I have a copy is because I bought it from you. It also got a Game Boy port later that year. It was also okay. I never played the sequel until emulators came around. I don't even know that I ever saw it in a store or in a rental place prior to that.
I don't even know where I got my copy from. It just showed up one day from probably the pawn shop down the street.
You must have gotten it from the rental place because it still has a rental sticker on it from your
your
local
it would have been
place.
Blazing Video.
Yes,
so we probably bought it in their bin there.
Yeah. There was also, of course, the remake of the original game that WayForward worked on with Capcom. Came out in 2013 for PS3, 360, Wii U, PC, and mobile devices. It's mostly faithful to the gameplay of the original, though the levels have been redesigned to make them easier to navigate. There's tons of quality of life features implemented. The art was completely replaced with original Disney animation, which means his coat is the right color now.
Excellent. I was very concerned.
That's true. All the voice acting that was added was from the show's original voice cast, some of whom were in their 90s at the time of recording.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also incredibly well received. It was delisted for a little while due to Capcom and Disney not working together, but it has since been relisted on Steam, on PSN for PS3, and on the Microsoft Store for any Xbox from the 360 forward. So you can still play it on a modern console if you want. And they also, in addition to just remaking the levels from the original, they added a new intro or tutorial level that introduces the game by having you save Huey, Dewey, and Louie from the Beagle Boys, which is way closer to any plot that the cartoon ever had than the game itself has.
I like there's you fight Beagle Boys throughout the game. I mean, really there's only like
show up.
3 of them. There's a strangely small amount of them,
right?
And one of them, like. You don't even have to encounter him at all. He's not protecting. He's just like off on the side somewhere. Yeah. And I think I killed him anyway. But I felt kind of bad. I was like, he's just hanging out. Like
he's not even doing anything.
So we have a Patreon exclusive show called After Hours, and on After Hours, when we were discussing covering DuckTales, it was brought up, do we want to cover the remake? And I said, no, I hated that remake. And then immediately, everyone was angry at me.
Yeah.
And I realized why I didn't like the remake. It's not because it's a bad game. I think partially it's because I'm not as in love with the original game as a lot of other fans are. So it wasn't for me.
Right.
But also, I realized a lot of the charm for me comes from cute little 8-bit DuckTales. And it being like, true to cartoon looking DuckTales kills something for me, if that makes sense. I don't know what it is. See, I liked that they were like little cute 8-bit versions of them.
Well, for me, I feel like the DuckTales remake looks like what the original looked like in my head back in 1990. Like when I played it on NES, I was like, this looks like a cartoon. And when I go back and play it, I'm like, this looks like a NES game. But in my head, it looked like a cartoon at the time. So playing the remake, I was like, this is what I remember. This is just an improved version of the game that I played years ago.
Yeah, see, I never had that. I never had that weird visual dissonance. Because
Right.
I've heard a lot of people say that before. They're like, oh yeah, the first time I played the first Mario game, literally looked like a cartoon that someone had animated, and I was watching it on the TV.
I felt that way with Mario 3. Oh, Mario 2 as well. But not the first
I don't know if
one.
it was an age thing or just a difference thing, but
Right.
I never had that. But I've heard a lot of people report that exact same phenomenon with stuff they experienced as children. I mean, obviously, like when I remember things being like bigger when I was a kid and stuff
Right.
like that. But I don't remember being like, oh yeah, this NES game looks straight up like the cartoon.
Oh yeah,
You know that, and it could have also been that I played it just later on.
That's
I
true.
don't know.
You were young enough that you already had the Super NES and the N64 around by the time you were really cognizant of gaming. So
N64 came out, and what was N64? 96? 96. So I was 8 when it came out. So I had been gaming for
you'd
years
been playing
by
for
the
a while then.
time the N64 came
That's
out.
fair.
But still, we had the Super Nintendo
NES.
by the time I was cognizant.
Right.
So maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, that might have ruined the NES aesthetic as far as making it look real to life anyway.
Right.
Anyway, so also there was the compilation, the Disney Afternoon Collection, which released on PC, PS4, Xbox One back in April of 2017. It has both DuckTales games, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, and both Rescue Rangers games. And somehow it's still available for sale. Disney has not delisted that yet. So if you want it, go get it. I've seen it on sale many times too. It is regularly on sale on Xbox.
I own it on Steam, and I know that it was cheap because I've set most of those games I already own on NES, and the other ones I'm not in love with.
Right.
So it must have been like $1.
Yeah, it's been on sale many times.
Spent the money on it. Yeah.
And of course, we do have to mention, or Guy will kill us, that the Moon theme made a cameo in an episode of the 2017 DuckTales reboot series, and it got lyrics. It becomes a lullaby. I watched the video clip of it. It is very touching and emotional, and very sweet, and it feels like a love letter to the game. And I truly hope that the composer in Japan was able to hear that and see that this song that he wrote for a derivative Disney game has now become Disney canon. So that's
less
really
dumb than the Brentalfloss version.
Less dumb than the Brentalfloss version, I would say. Yeah, generally less dumb.
As far as final thoughts on DuckTales, it's okay. It's I don't find it to be the most thrilling game, but it is a serviceable, functional, good licensed NES game, which puts it in like the upper 30% of NES games.
Wow.
Just by being those things.
Oof.
The soundtrack is just phenomenal. I mean, it's a good game. It's a great way to kill an hour. It's good. It's a good game, and you should play it.
I am curious what younger people would think of it, because people who didn't play it when it was still relevant, I'm curious if they are more likely to agree with you that it is just an okay game, that it doesn't particularly stand out from the crowd. Because most of the people that I knew when it came out thought that it was in the upper echelon of NES titles, and you still regularly see that.
I agree that it's in the upper echelon of NES titles.
Well, I'm talking top 10%, maybe top 5% is what I would always hear.
I don't know that I'd put it quite that high, but it's definitely in the top tier of NES games. I mean, there's 900 licensed NES games in North America. 800 or 900, 500 of them are just the worst.
Yeah.
And then you've got like 300 games that actually function all the way to the end. Listen, I've played a lot of NES. Yeah. A lot of shit is just broken.
I would say I put it definitely at least in my top 50 NES games. It may be in my top 20.
It might end up in a top 50 for me. I think if I were to really enumerate it, for sure.
I will definitely say, and this will probably upset some people, I will definitely say that I would put it above any of the Ninja Gaidens.
Oh no, I wouldn't put it anywhere even in the same class as any of the Ninja Gaiden. I was going to say the worst Ninja Gaiden, but they're all the best Ninja Gaidens, so I can't even say that. But Ninja Gaiden is a game I do have lots of nostalgia for, so maybe I'm battling through my own rose-tinted glasses there.
I would still say if you haven't played it, definitely give it a shot. And if you have played it, you already love it, and you already think Justin is wrong. So
there you go.
It's okay.
I feel so weird because I'm like, yeah, it's a good game, but I'm still wrong because I'm saying it's not good enough.
It's true.
It's very bizarre. It's a good game.
I'm just giving you hell, though. I think you're probably right. You're probably not seeing it through those same rose-tinted goggles I am. So you may be more objective.
I grew up watching the show. I grew up playing the game. I don't know. It's good. I'm just going to stop saying it's good. I'm just going to let it exist. It's good. Thank you for listening. You know what else is good is our patrons over at patreon.com/retrowarriors, where you can get cool things like our spinoff show, After Hours, or our other Patreon exclusive show, which is
You're so
Talking
good
Wizards.
at this segue.
And we would like you if you would rate and review the show on whatever you listen to the show on.
Like a well-tuned machine.
And we would like to thank the following patrons for making this show possible, starting with Brandon Johnson,
Captain Koloth,
David Nethery,
George McBain,
Lachlan Heatherton,
Nick Brown,
Sharp Cheddar,
Suffer
Video Rangers Podcast,
and Zargon.
Are all the patrons that made the show possible. Thank you so much for donating your money and for being a part of our Discord and hanging out with us and talking to us, which you can do too with a link in the little the show,
the little show
that I wrote in the little show. Anyway, be sure to stay tuned after the ending theme. Our producer guy is going to be on probably to yell at me,
possibly.
So please stay for that. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week, and as always, let us cling together. After party with our producer Guy.
Hi, Guy.
Guy, don't yell at me.
I don't know why you think I'm gonna yell at you.
It's okay if you yell at him a little.
Maybe because I was yelling at you before we started the show. But,
you were. It was well. You don't yell,
That's
but
true.
your tone changes to a yelling tone.
It's not yelling. He's just becoming more aggressive.
I don't know that you physically can raise your voice. Like, if you were in danger, I would be concerned that you'd be like, "Can anyone help me, please?"
Por favor.
He is a parent. I am certain he knows how to raise his voice if he has to.
That's true. There are moments.
That's fair.
There are definite moments. They bring out that superpower in you.
Dude, I would say that you're not far off. I don't know. When we talked about DuckTales on After Hours, you were like, "No, I hate that game." So
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I was much more negative on After Hours than I am after sitting down playing through the game again.
That's good.
I will admit that. I think it was combination. One, I hadn't played it in a long time. And two, I remember just not loving it. And I think it was one of those things where as time rolled on, people loved it so much more than me that I just assumed I hated it.
Yeah, you just had to instinctively push back.
And then I was like, no, people fucking love that thing way more than me. I must think it's trash. I still don't like the remake. And like I said on the show proper, I still don't quite know what it is about the remake that I'm just like, bored, instantly bored.
Weird. Well, that intro level is pretty slow paced. I'll give you that.
Maybe I can't even say I made it past it.
I mean, maybe it's just your general Disney aversion. Like
that is true.
That is true. I do very much not like Disney or Disney properties, and Disney afternoon properties were kind of the exception in my home. We had a lot of Disney movies. I watched the Disney movies that came out when I was a kid, so I watched like Aladdin and Lion King a bunch.
Right.
But I didn't care for Disney as like a property. I remember being a kid and seeing commercials for like Disneyland or they'd put it in the front of Disney tapes. And I literally remember being a kid and thinking like, why the fuck would I go there? We got Six Flags.
Yeah. I was the same way, honestly. I was much more of a Looney Tunes fan than a Disney fan. But I still had love for their films and for the Disney afternoon stuff. And for some reason, the video games, like almost all of the Disney video games, I enjoyed in some way or another.
Oh, man, I've always wanted to go to Disney World. And I guess, to be fair, I went when I was like 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but you don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Although my girlfriend told a story the other day about like 1980, 7, when she went to Disney World when she was 3. And I was like, God damn it.
Well, sometimes you get normal people, and then you get people like Saturn who remember everything that ever happened in his life.
Well, not everything, but way more than I want to remember.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes you'd be like, well, yeah, I remember in 1982 whenever it did. And I'm like, Saturn, how old were you then? And you'd be like, well, I was 3 months old. Like, how do you even remember that?
Saturn was never 3 months old in 1982.
That's true. My oldest cognitive memory was when I was 2 years old, and it's fuzzy, but I do have some memories of that time.
Yeah, as the owner of a human, and I've read the book. Normally, you don't start forming like real memories until after that. So
right.
it like having memory
can
that
happen.
young is
it's not.
Yeah. Having memory that young is odd. It's an odd thing.
I have a few memories from being that young, but mostly they were being scared.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's what left an impression on young me.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. You know,
my memories from that age were mostly my brother attacking me. So
I know you mean like in a non-lethal way.
Well, no, one of them was him trying to drown me, and one was him throwing me off of the top bunk of the bunk bed. So it might have been lethal.
Hold on a second. Those are two very different types of attacks.
It's true.
A bunk bed is like 6 feet off of the ground. Trying to drown someone will put you in jail for most of your life.
That's true. Very. When you're a kid, they're about the same.
Just boys being boys there.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know. It's a weird kind of dissonance thing where I wonder if it's because I was a little bit too young for DuckTales. Because it went off the air in what, 93?
92. No, 91. Sorry.
I was 3, depending 2 or 3. 2 or 3, depending on when it did that.
Yeah.
So it could just be this thing where I remember watching DuckTales. But I don't know. It's possible that I don't know. It's so early for me that I really don't remember. I remember playing the game a lot. My brother liked the show a lot. I remember seeing the show. I know for sure I watched the movie a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But that's all I got for DuckTales. That's kind of it. And then a few years later, it was Power Rangers straight through to like middle school.
Yeah,
fucking
Power
Rangers.
I could not get into Power Rangers.
I got a couple of show notes here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As your producer. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, no.
I know. You're
fired.
My first note says Sexy Duck Dream Adventures is the Howard the Duck's original title.
At least it's accurate.
I would totally play a Howard the Duck game if it was subtitled Sexy Duck Dream Adventure.
I'd play a Howard the Duck game anyway.
That's
I bet
fair.
you there's a Howard the Duck ROM hack for DuckTales.
I would
bet
not be
you
surprised.
Anything has to exist.
Right.
What's your other note?
Oh, the Brental Floss song that has ruined a song for me is the Castlevania song.
Oh,
I don't remember that one.
The one from Castlevania 2?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to find that one. I don't think I've heard it.
I think he's specifically covering the Castlevania 2 version, but it's
Bloody Tears, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Bloody Tears.
Okay.
It's dumb.
There's a lot of them that he has ruined for me. Dr. Mario, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Brothers 2, and then this one, DuckTales, The Moon.
It's funny, as time goes on, like I own all of his albums, because when he came out, I was in like my early to mid 20s, which is like kind of the perfect age for like that type
dumb
of humor.
Yeah.
And some of it has not aged gracefully.
True.
But it's still, I listen to them incessantly in that time.
Yeah.
And so they've completely stuck with me. And I don't know that they'll ever go away, because now every time I play the games, I sing the songs, and it's like they're going to outlive his career at this point in my brain.
Also, the other thing that sticks in my head is that Animation Domination Yoshi and Mario song. I can't play Mario World anymore without hearing that.
That one gets me too.
Yeah.
That one gets me too a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wonder what he's doing. I check in on him like once a year. Just to be like, what's Brental Floss up
I just
to?
imagine you're like peeking your head in his bedroom like, how you doing, champ?
It's like, hey, buddy, Punch Out with Lyrics was pretty good.
He's just wearing a Mega Man shirt, kind of sadly talking to a camera.
I like that you rapped in the middle of it, kind of. It was neat. He's just like, go away.
How'd you get in my house?
His Final Fantasy songs are fucking amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, he's not really doing the with lyrics thing, or he's kind of separated himself away a little bit from that particular body of work. As far as I can tell, I think he released like 1 or 2 things last year. Like it's just kind of this fun thing he does on the side now. I assume he's just a regular working musician at this point, and not just the with lyrics guy. But I don't know. He was on Screw Attack. You guys remember Screw Attack?
No.
What?
I didn't really pay attention to Screw Attack. I remember Screw Attack. I remembered existing. I just didn't pay attention to it.
Screw Attack had Angry Video Game Nerd was there for a little while. Like that was where his stuff went up first. Brental Floss was that's where his stuff went up first for a little bit. Unless I'm misremembering, it was just a gaming website and forum that had videos. You know, like there were dozens of websites like that. This is back before like everyone did everything via social media, so we had these little communities we'd go to that would have their own in-jokes and their own like songs and videos and memes, and then you would like go over to this other community that would have its own subset of internet culture.
Right.
And now it's all just everyone's let loose on Facebook.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really work anymore.
This is true.
Yeah, you guys don't remember Screw Attack?
No, I didn't pay attention to it. I remember it existing. Weird. I just didn't ever go there.
A lot of the earlier gaming YouTube stuff either was on there or started there or had something to do with a lot of those guys.
Well, at that point, I was very against video internet. I assumed that all video internet was still like real player.
That's the oldest statement I've heard in years. I was against the video. They came out with the video internet. I didn't like it.
I was so certain that every web video was still real player for a very long time, and just refused to watch anything. I was like, this is going to be more shit quality that I'm going to have to wait forever for it to buffer, and it's not going to be worth my time. And so I just ignored it for a very long time. And it wasn't until somebody sent me a Dr. Tran video that I was like, oh shit, internet videos are getting good now.
A great, this is to jump back, a comparison, The Escapist is one of those websites that's still going.
Right.
It was very much like that, but smaller because things weren't as big back then.
Yeah, I remember.
Go ahead.
I feel like if Saturn was alive like 100 years ago, he would be like, and then they put fucking talking in pictures. And I mean, the voices
How
just
fucking
don't
dare
match
they?
their faces.
They ruined it.
Ruins it.
Now I can't hear the score.
They're talking over the piano.
You hear that? They got moving pictures now?
Yeah, I was very hesitant to jump on board the internet video because like I had at work, this was back in 2006, 2007. We would send each other these dumb videos that we had found. They were just MP4 files, or they were real player files, or whatever. And it would take us like an hour to send them to each other, and then it would be like a 30-second clip of Saturday Night Live or something. And we would all just crowd around somebody's computer and watch this postage stamp size video and laugh about it. And when people started telling me about like AVGN and stuff, back when he was still just the angry Nintendo nerd, I was like, I don't want to put in that effort. That's not worth my time. There's so much that I can still read on the internet that I haven't gotten to. That I'll get around to it later when internet is better. And then by the time internet was better, a lot of those things had already risen and fallen, and I just never got into them.
Yeah, and to be fair, a lot of it's not the thing you get into after the fact. Like a lot of, especially older gaming communities are very much, to put it mildly, boys clubs.
What?
I know it's shocking, and it's going back to some of it sometimes. It's like, oof, oh man, that's not what I'm about anymore. You know, like it's. But I do find it weird that you're like, I was against videos on the internet, as if you had to go sign up for a special video. I'm not going to do it. You just go to the website. If you don't like it, you can close it, Saturn. You
remember, you know how sometimes you're just like, I refuse to even try to do that dumb thing, even though it's something completely innocuous. I fell into that a lot in my early 20s, and it took me a long time to get myself out of that mindset.
Well, I mean, the first 20 videos are only like 10 cents, and then they fucking jack up the price. So.
Right. First video's free. Welcome to YouTube.
They send you 20 videos for a penny, but then you have to buy one a month at $30.
But the cool thing is, like, every month after that, you get stickers. So,
yeah, in a lot of ways, I'm kind of glad that a lot of that older stuff is. I assume like Screw Attack no longer exists on the internet or whatever. I would be almost embarrassed by probably most of it. But it's different time.
I appreciate that Guy got my Columbia House reference there.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Yeah,
it's nice. I get two more notes. One, Blazing Video gave me flashbacks. Thanks.
Oh man, I love that. My neighbor owned and ran Blazing Video.
No way.
Yes, and
nice.
I don't remember her name. I think her name was Carol, and you had to say it real slow.
That's a weird way to pronounce Carol.
A lot of R's.
Was internet lag?
No, it was me saying it slow because I couldn't remember it, and I just ran with it. How is your name, Carol? Are you okay? Yes.
Oh.
I want to say it was Carol, and her husband was named Chuck. And they ran that video store, and our house was very close to it growing up, and we went there all the time.
Nice.
And then they opened fucking Stars Video down the way, and fuck Stars Video. If the owners of Stars Video are listening to this, fuck you. Just gonna put it out there. Okay, take that, Stars Video. And then Blockbuster happened. So.
Yeah.
Fucking Blockbuster, and then Netflix happened.
Yeah.
Yup.
And then Peacock happened.
Hey, now, well,
I had to explain to my wife that there are now like new streaming services.
Yeah,
because she's going on like the last year she's been home.
Yeah,
she doesn't like browse the internet.
Right.
She's not really in any like internet communities, so she's not going out in the world. She doesn't watch the news. She's not part of any like online communities or anything.
Weird.
And she's been studying for the CPA, like she is a CPA now, but she was studying for the CPA for like 2 or 3 years. So she just was totally disconnected from Earth for like the last 3 years. And she was watching some preview for a show, and she kept going, I keep seeing this preview. Where do I watch that show? I want to watch that show. And at the end, it says Paramount Plus, every commercial. And I go, it's on Paramount. And she goes, no, what service is it on? Like, not who made it, where is it? And I'm like, no. You don't understand. It's a fucking shit show. Let me explain this to you. Paramount made it and has their own service.
Yeah.
And she was like, what? And I go, there's also Peacock. And then she wouldn't talk to me about it anymore because she was upset that it was named Peacock. She was just like, we're done.
Well, if you're just going to make things up and lie to me.
In fairness, that's how somebody should have responded at the boardroom meeting at Comcast when somebody proposed the name Peacock.
I can only assume that they said, what should we call it? And someone went, cock. And then someone went, no, it's got to be just a little bit better than that. And then someone else went, peacock. And they went, well, it's better than cock, so I guess we have to pick it.
Do either of you remember the old NBC promos from the 80s where they used to always say they were proud as a peacock?
Saturn, why would I?
No.
Why and how would I remember that?
That's the dumbest shit in the world. I hate. I vaguely remember a commercial with Mr. T standing in front of the logo saying, "I'm proud as a peacock," and I was like,
you know what's funny is that peacocks have no concept of pride.
What? I mean, I'm sure that they love their feathers.
Nope. No ability to understand pride as a concept.
I think
they understand prejudice.
Peacocks.
I've met many birds.
Oh, that's good.
They do not.
You a birdologist now?
Yeah, I study birdology.
That's good.
It's aviology.
No, it's birdology.
Guy, what else you got for us?
Oh yeah, my last note. I like that you insulted our patrons or somebody, our listeners, maybe. Like,
huh?
In
What?
Your
I
weird
didn't insult anybody.
You said we would like you if you would rate and review our show.
Oh, we would like you if you rate and review our show. We'll like you if you don't, too. So
That tickled me.
In fairness, he was kind of stumbling over all of his words at that point, so it'll be a shock if anyone understands anything he said at that point in the show.
I assume Pablo always edits my outros into something coherent, right?
No.
No. Is that not?
We just let
those
it
go
run.
live.
Yeah.
No, he just plays the music over your awkward outro, and it's great.
I just assume he plays yakety sax by around like Patreon. As I'm over there like, you, a patron, can be on our website.
It's just you like yelling, but he's like fading you out slowly.
Guy, thank you for being a producer on the show. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing your segment. Definitely. We're going to end the show now to do the next show.
Awesome. Boy. Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.